Hey VC, Big Star 1000 with the weekly installment of Revolutions, my listening journal, and just as a matter of public service here, just giving you maybe 20 minutes when you don't think about being in confinement or isolation or whatever. And you can just vibe with me, react, play the records if you've got them, write me a comment. I always respond, and no, it's cool. I really like it. At the moment, I'm really enjoying it. I'm thinking of doing a couple of videos a week, like doing a Gimme 10 and the Revolutions, but that might be too much of Big Star 1000 thoughts. So I'll show you the records I've been playing this week. And the record that I woke up to this morning is Maiden Voyage by Herbie Hancock. One of the finest moments of Herbie Hancock on the mighty Blue Note label. Maybe his finest moment on Blue Note, who knows. I really love this record. A great date with Ron Carter and Freddie Hubbard and Tony Williams on drums. Wherever Tony Williams plays drums, the record ends up being good. I don't know how, but it's just the way it is. This is a 10. This is a brilliant record. Everybody should own it. And it's just beautiful modal jazz. I think in the early period of Herbie Hancock, in his first half of his career, maybe this is the best record he made. I don't know. It's close to it anyway. I revisited a record that I hadn't played for many years. In fact, this came out in 2011. That's the year I started making videos. And it was a compilation issued on Finders Keepers. The band is a Spanish band called Fusion. And they sort of are purveyors of a Canterbury school, Canterbury prog style of music, like Egg or Caravan or Soft Machine, with some more bombastic elements like, the track 1 of side 2 opens with a cover of Toccata and Fugue by Bach, which is one of my favorite Baroque tunes, if not my favorite. So I love that, but it's kind of, sometimes when prog bands go into classical music, it reminds you of the worst thing about prog, like ELP. Sorry, if you love ELP, I apologize, but I just think ELP is just like massively, there's a reason why punk happened. But this is not the reason why punk happened. This is quite good as a whole. They're from Barcelona, and they were from Barcelona, and check them out. They're a good band. If you like Soft Machine, just check this out. And after that, I revisited Big Science by Laurie Anderson, one of my all-time favorite records, and a record I believe should be in everyone's collection. It's cheap to start with. You can get it for, like in Melbourne, you could get it for like $10, $12 all the time. It's a beautiful record. So Laurie Anderson with a violin and a triple tracked vocals, or vocals to infinity. Oh Superman, when she goes for 8 minutes. The opening song, From the Air, is kind of like you could put that on the post-punk compilation, which really fit nicely. This is avant-garde, post-punk, kind of new wave-ish as well. I don't know what to describe. Laurie Anderson is a thinker. That's what she is. Wife of Lou Reed, of the late Lou Reed. And then in quick succession, I played Yellow, which is a Swiss band on the same label as the Residents, Ralph Records. And this is kind of like electronic tape collage, kind of frightening in parts, like horror movie style sounds that you've got in there. Like, it's not the easiest of all listens, but in the cover, it just tells you everything about the, like, that's the music. The music is there, like this kind of freaky, weird, day glow, baby dressed as a frog. It's, I mean, you know, what the fuck? I mean, really. This is a newish release for me, something I picked up recently to help one of my local record stores. And you know, Northside Records, which is in the city in Melbourne, well, they had a copy of this, so I thought it wasn't cheap or anything, but I just thought I'll just get it because I was interested in this release. It's called Synchro Jazz Live. It's a Brazilian 1982 jazz live date with lots of Fender Rhodes, funky flutes. This is a very nice record. It's not mind-blowing, but it's a nice record. It's an edition of 500, and it was issued by this Portuguese label called Mad About Records, which is a great little label. And there's one release here which you may be familiar with. It's the Mystic Beauty on Reggie Andrews and the Fellowship, which I have on order from overseas, and I don't know if it will come, but I'd like to, because they've repressed it. Great spiritual jazz. But the Synchro Jazz is a nice record. Again, because it's expensive and it's not too many of them, just listen to it online before you buy, because it might not be your cup of tea. This should be everyone's cup of tea. This is the mighty Inner Space by Sven Libek, the Norwegian Australian composer, because I mean he's been living in Australia for all his life. I don't even know if he's alive or dead. I think he's still alive. He might be dead. It doesn't matter. You can look it up on Wikipedia. Just you knock yourself out. This is the first repress of this record with the William Shatner's sort of spoken word interludes. When they repressed that recently, they just took them out, I think for legal reasons. This was a TV show, underwater TV show, and this is very jazzy ambiance, you know, really like, and I used to call this that the bullet of the underwater, which it is, you know, you got this kind of like high octane, you know, kind of jazzy tunes made for an underwater documentary. It's great. And it's a library records typically, and this is two here. This is a fantastic library record. Nino Nardini, Roger, which is called The Jungle Obsession. This is very loungy, exotica jazz, very nice record. Was a reissued on Vadim many years ago. I think this reissue even is kind of hard to come by, but you know, it reminds you of like some parts of like late 90s kind of loungy electronic music, like I don't know, I'm thinking of Kenobi or Groove Armada, you know, in parts, like the backdrop of their music, but kind of like, you know, loungy, a little bit down tempo, you know. It's a beautiful record. This is fantastic. Another scorcher of record is this amazing piece by Gabor Szabo, Dreams, 1968. It's a I mean, you know Gabor Szabo. He was a Hungarian jazz guitar player who made his life in making records in America on Impulse. And this is a record that he made for Sky Records. And it is a dead set monster, this record. It is beautiful. Just like beautiful instrumental guitar, jazzy, very poetic, very and just really catchy, really melodic. I highly recommend this record. It has a violin, French horn, cello. It's kind of, yeah, it's got this kind of big star. Come on, I have vocabulary, you know, a pretty decent one of that. So yeah, you've got this kind of sort of orchestral Baroque type of sound in the background. Another great record, a long-time favorite. I used to talk about this in the VC in the early days, in the early 2010s when I first started. This is Hubert Laws, and I played this because a viewer asked me whether I prefer Hubert Laws or Jeremy Steig, and I mean they're both really good. This record though is amazing. In the beginning, that's the one Hubert Laws you need. I mean, in my opinion, he hasn't done any better than this, and it's a mixture of you know, you've got a Satie tune there. It's mixed with more jazzy, more funky things. I mean, it's a great CTA record. You could probably have this for cheap. Flute funk, flute jazz. Who plays on this? Ron Carter, most likely. Yes, Steve Gadd on drums. You know, Airto Moreira and Dave Friedman on percussion. And you've got Bob James, amongst other people, on keyboard. Ronnie Laws, his brother, on tenor sax. Yeah, a good lineup. Very nice lineup. Here is another great jazz record that I highly recommend. It's Chick Corea. Now he sings, now he sobs. Doesn't sing though on this. It's Chick Corea's second record, and it's a beautiful date. This who is in the trio? I think it's a trio. It's very reminiscent of, you know, Bill Evans in part. It's very like when he plays hard. You know, there's these very quick sessions of notes where he just seems to. There's a high degree of virtuosity on this. I nearly choked there. And I don't even remember who plays on this. Who's the and it's because it's all in Japanese. I have no clue because I'm an idiot. You can note that down, VC. Big Star is a moron. Okay, you can look it up. I don't know who's in the trio, but the lineup is fantastic. More jazz and more jazz, superb jazz, fantastic jazz, beautiful modal spiritual jazz on Muse. Joe Chambers, the Almoravid, with Cedar Walton, Rich Davis on bass. This record reminds me a lot of Andrew Champ Sound, who no longer makes videos, but he's another Melbourne fellow, and we miss him. He's, you know, Andrew, if you're watching this. More jazz again, on ECM this time, Edward Vesala, from Estonia, I think he was from. This is a promo copy of Satu with a killer lineup of, you've got Palle Danielson there, you've got Terje Ribdal, you've got, I mean, Thomas Stanko plays on this, on trumpet. Fantastic, really beautiful, spiritual. Like, if you're looking for really good ECMs, this has got to be one of them. It's not dull ECM where everything sounds the same. This is a beautiful ECM. Okay, continuing with some more jazz. As I said, at the moment, find it hard to escape. It's my weapon of choice. And this is a shout out to Glowing 00 Cabbage, Jeff. And Jeff said, oh, you know, I was listening to this Australian record by the Judy Bailey Quartet, and I'm presuming that's the one. That's the one. I mean, you know, this is Colours by Judy Bailey, and I mean, Judy Bailey is originally from New Zealand, but all this was done in Australia, and the players, I think, are from Australia. This is a superb, funky jazz from. This record is typically like, you know, it's a pricey record. Not that the price should matter. I mean, you know, if you try to buy this now, it's, you know, it's a three-figure kind of a thing, right? You'll pay maybe $150, $150. I found this in my local record store, mint, but like when I'm talking mint, like unplayed. for, I think it was about $12 at the time. And I was so stressed when I brought it to the counter that I hid it in a pile of other records, hoping they would notice, but I think they thought it was a country record or something. This is funky as hell. It's a very, 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 very nice record. And Judy Bailey plays the Fender, the electric piano, the clavinet. Really, really super funky. One of the highlights of Australian jazz, surely. And here is one of the highlights of music, full stop. And I'm talking about In a Silent Way. That's just a delightful record. I think, you know, when we talk about the best miles, you know, we always talk about, you know, Kind of Blue, and, you know, people will say, oh, you know, I think Bitches Brew is the greatest record, blah, blah, blah. But I think it comes down to this, I think, which is the perfect amalgamation between the quiet of Kind of Blue to the frenetic, frantic of Bitches Brew, you know, and it's kind of In a Silent Way. John McLaughlin is stellar on this, but then you've got, oh, you know, you've got Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, spoken about both of these. Wayne Shorter, genius of the tenor sax. Dave Holland, Joe Zawinul on electric piano, and Tony Williams. Lineup of legends. Yes, the beginning of electric jazz. Now I've got two Mal Waldron records, and it's because I was just, I just pulled them out of my, I was actually having a chat with Anthony Camplone, who is another guy from Melbourne. You all know Campo. And we just got talking, and he mentioned The Call by Mal Waldron, and I love this record. It's one of my favorites. It's, in my opinion, the best thing they've put on the Japo label. Japo was the subsidiary of ECM. Japo was Jazz by Post, Japo. And this has got Mal Waldron, Jimmy Jackson, Eberhard Weber, and Fred Braithwaite. So it's a super, super smoky kind of like high octane jazz funk session. It's just, but it's kind of space jazz, jazz funk. You know, you've got this very, very high energy, and like the synth playing is just totally off the charts. It's amazing. Mal Waldron is the synth. I mean the piano, the keyboards. That's what I mean. And oh, this is smoking, smoking. If you can get a copy, I think it's not easy to get these days, but because it's so good, I mean, you know, people keep them usually. And I also revisited this one, The Quest, which is more like a hard bop, sort of modal jazz kind of record. Mal Waldron, Eric Dolphy, and Booker Irvin, and Ron Carter on cello. Beautiful record as well, absolutely fantastic. A couple of Krautrock classics. This is the best Krautrock record there is. I mean, that's just, you know, we're going to settle the argument here. That's, if you want, if you've never, ever heard a Krautrock record, you're watching this video, you have no idea what we're talking about. You don't know. What is he talking about? Krautrock. Krautrock is a you know, a sort of a catch-all term for German music from the 1970s, more or less. A little bit of 60s, but mostly 70s. And there are two main schools of Krautrock. There's Berlin School, which is very synth-based, Tangerine Dream and Klaus Schulze and all the kind of like really, really spacey synth bands. And then you've got the more experimental side, more sort of like, and I think out of all the great sort of classic rock record, I think this is the best, my favorite one. Original pressing, Future Days, killer. Ambient, soothing, inventive, endlessly inventive. I mean, this is one of the best albums ever made. Not just Krautrock, it's just one of the best albums ever made. And this one too, this one is a monster. It's also an original. This is an absolute monster. Although, truth be told, I think I prefer Noise 75 to this one, but it's, yeah. So this is Noise with Michael Hotta and Klaus Dinger, the drummer and the guitar player. Just basically invent a style there of kind of chugging along type of drumming, motoric drumming with this kind of beautiful scintillating guitar lines, absolutely cosmic. Noi from 1972, I think it was released. Everybody should know about this. And Noi and Can have heavily influenced this band, which is Public Image Limited. This is the metal box, but as a double LP, much better, I think, much more digestible, with its sort of dubby, bassy lines by Jawabo, and its, you know, vocal screams by John Lydon. John Lydon was a massive fan of Can, massive, of Can and Tim Buckley and Captain Beefheart and Kevin Coyne and Culture and the Congos. Yeah, the very wide musical taste. And when you think about what the Sex Pistols represented, it's just poles apart. This guy had taste, like serious taste. This is the best album, don't hesitate. Public Image Limited. This is Smoking as well. Max Roach, great jazz drummer. Members don't get weary. Have a listen to a track called Equipoise, which is his first track on side 2. It's just a beautiful ambient kind of track with, you know, written by Stanley Cowell. This is fire. A couple more, and I'm almost finished. I'm hoping I'm not boring you. This is a beautiful ambient electronic record, very melodic, very joyful in parts. L'Apocalypse des Animaux, which was a series about animals narrated by a French legend called Frédéric Rossif. It was a series on TV when I was a kid, and well, actually, I didn't see this as it played because this is from the early 70s, but it was replayed later when I was a child, and this is just a really beautiful, soothing, like the cover with the bird, soothing and melodic and tranquil, and just beautiful record. Maybe very, you know, if you want to get into Vangelis, it's a good record to get into. 2 more. Here is one that I've revisited recently. Lloyd Miller. Lloyd Miller was a jazz musician who became fascinated with Iran and Persian music, and so much so that he went to live in Iran and he learned in Iran. He even presented a TV show in Iran under a different name, escapes me now. And then he went back to America and recorded all this fantastic sort of mix of East meets West kind of records, but with distinct Iranian flavor. And this is one that he did with the Utah University ensemble. And this is probably 80% great and 20% is a bit oof. There's a track called 60 Years of Jazz, which is just goes back into trad jazz and traditional jazz, New Orleans jazz, kind of ragtime, which I find unbearable, you know, and it's a shame that's on there because it kind of ruins the whole mood of this beautiful, spiritual, Persian kind of jam. It's beautiful. But, you know, it was released on Now Again a few years ago, probably, yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, but I haven't played it since. And the last one is an absolute classic. Mr. Nick Drake, Brighter Later. Everybody should own this record. It's a fact. And there's a song on this which I always talk about a song. For me, it's about songs, but a song for me which represents Nick Drake to a T. It's Northern Sky. I think Northern Sky is his best song. You know, that or 6 Hours. I really love 6 Hours as well because it's complex and just goes for a long. 6 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours, not 6 hours. It's because it's 6 minutes. It goes for 6 minutes. That's why I'm 3 hours to sundown. Yeah, that's the best song. Yeah, and Northern Sky has got John Cale on Celeste and piano and organ. Beautiful, 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 beautiful record. Folk jazz. That's it. VC. I hope you enjoyed this installment. If you didn't, you didn't pay for it. You know, that's a point of consolation, I guess. If you really didn't and you hate my face, then don't watch me anymore. I recommend, especially if you've come to that point and you've decided I hate your face, Big Star 1000. And I'm going to start doing some gimme 10s. I've workshopped a list of ideas. I think it'll be good. Okay, I love you all. See you soon.